Hi guys, so this is something that has been preying on my mind and bugging me for, for quite a few months actually. And that is obviously, like you, I watch videos on YouTube and elsewhere talking about swords and the truths about swords and trying to dispel some of the myths about swords, but also reviewing replicas of swords. And a subject that keeps coming up, which kind of I wince at whenever it happens, and I won't name names, but there's an example of this on a recent video that went up online, is the idea that historical swords, i.e. real swords, antique swords, used in history rather than replicas, somehow all have to feel wonderful in the hand and be nimble and sort of are a joy to hold. Now, I've addressed this issue before, but the simple fact is that's not true. Okay, in my life, I don't even know how many antique swords I've held, but certainly hundreds, possibly thousands. And the simple fact of the matter is that not all real swords, that is, genuine antique swords that were made for fighting and for defending life and taking life, not all of them feel nice in the hand. Okay, now I've had the pleasure to hold swords in the Wallace collection, in the Royal Armouries, in the Stibbett collection in Florence, all over various bits of Europe, and of course the UK. And of course I collect swords, I buy and sell a few swords as part of my hobby, and a lot of swords come into my hands, and I have friends who are also antique weapon collectors, so I handle their swords as well. And the simple fact of the matter is that historically, lots of weapons that were very effective and very successful didn't necessarily feel nice in the hand, whatever that means. And I think the problem comes from certain styles of sword are balanced in certain ways that they do give people a sense of what a sword should feel like in the hand, but what they don't realise is that not all swords are like that. So if we look at a rapier, for example, rapiers tend to balance relatively close to the hand. They tend to balance about 3 inches from the crossguard, sometimes a bit more in fact, and sometimes a little bit closer, but they are balanced in such a way that if I just pick up a sword that's a bit more similar to a rapier, I actually don't have a rapier in the room at the moment, but this is a small sword blade sword. They are designed to be very nimble in the point, okay? And that's obvious because they're thrust-centric weapons, so you want to have a lot of control in the point, and therefore the point of balance is very close to the hand, and in a small sword's case, it's very light. So obviously this feels nice in hand because it's both very light and balanced close to the hand. However, if you tried to hit someone with this, I won't say cut them with it because this is a triangular small sword blade, so you're not going to cut anyone with it, unless you're Zorro, who miraculously cuts with a blade that's not designed to cut. But if you try to hit someone with this to hurt them, you're going to fail. You're going to fail big time, okay? The simple fact is that the point of balance being very close to the hand and the fact that there's so little mass in the blade up here means it will be like hitting someone with a coat hanger, okay? You're going to slightly annoy them and maybe embarrass them, but you're not really going to injure them, and if you hurt them, it'll only be like a whipping effect, okay? It'll be like hitting them with a thin stick at the most. So very clearly, swords that are designed to be used in certain ways need to have a point of balance that's maybe further out and need to have more mass in the end of the blade to have a greater chopping potential. And this is what it really comes down to. There are certain swords in history which are designed to chop or to slice. Some of those are obviously cavalry weapons, and very simply they don't feel as nimble in the hand as certain types of other swords like rapiers and some long swords and small swords and so on and so forth. So if we look at this original antique light cavalry sabre, this is probably made for a British officer serving in India. It's an Indian, should we say Tulwar or even Kilich inspired version of the 1796 light cavalry sabre. Let's look at where this balances. There we go. Now I measured this just before I started filming this video. that is 7 inches from the hand. Now if you go by what lots of modern people, when they're talking about modern replica swords, they would say 7 inches from the hand. That's far too far out to balance the sword. That's gonna handle horribly. Well, I can assure you this doesn't handle horribly. It just handles like a chopper, and lots of antique swords do. Okay, so that's really all I want to say, is that they're much like axes. Axes don't feel lovely in the hand. They feel like something you're going to hit with a lot of power with at the end, and lots of historical swords were like that as well. The standard 1796 light cavalry sabre weighs about 2 pounds and balances 7 inches or sometimes 8 inches from the hand. So talking about swords always balancing in a certain way or only weighing a certain amount is a fallacy. And the fact of the matter is, lots of antique real swords, when you first pick them up, feel like a bit of a dog, but when you move them around you get a sense of what they're supposed to do and why they weigh that and why they balance like that. Okay, so please stop perpetuating a kind of counter myth that all real swords have to feel wonderful in the hand when you pick them up and wave them around. They don't, okay? But swords aren't designed to be picked up and waved around. They're designed, ultimately, to kill people. Okay, cheers!